Once upon a time in a town full of happy people, there lived a little boy named Toby. Now Toby was no ordinary boy. He was extraordinary in every way. You know, one of those kinds of boys who just couldn't stop moving. One day, while playing outside, Toby kicked a ball against an old showbox. The box opened and out popped a pair of shiny red shoes. They looked fancy with buckles and ribbons. Toby slipped his feet inside and buckled them up, and suddenly, bam, his feet began to move. He tried to stop them, but it was no use. His feet kept tapping to a rhythm only he could hear. Toby was scared at first, but then he thought, well, might as well enjoy this. And before he knew it, he was dancing his way through the town. People stopped and stared as he twirled and leaped, kicking up his heels and tapping his toes. Toby was having the time of his life, but little did he know the shoes were magical. They forced him to dance until someone took them off him. Now, Toby loved to dance, but after a while, even he got tired. He sat down on a nearby bench to catch his breath. That's when an old woman approached him. She was short with a hunchback and a long white beard. Well, what have we here? She asked with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. A dancing boy in red shoes. Haven't seen one of those in a while. Toby blushed and tried to explain about the shoes, but the woman waved her hand dismissively. Don't bother, child. I know all about these shoes, she said. They're tricksy things, aren't they? Always causing mischief wherever they go. She leaned closer to Toby and whispered, if you want the dancing to stop, you'll have to take them off and give them to someone who can dance even better than you. But how could Toby find such a dancer? He thought and thought until he had an idea. He stood up, adjusted his clothes and went back to where he had found the shoes. Maybe if he left them there, someone else would find them and put them on. Then, hopefully, they would dance all the way to the river and wash the shoes away. Just then, along came Rosie. She was a popular girl in town known for her beautiful singing and graceful dancing. Toby had a crush on her, but he was too shy to talk to her. So when he saw the shoes by the bench, he decided to leave them there hoping she would find them. Rosie strolled over and noticed the shoes. A smile spread across her face. Oh, what a pretty color, she said, picking them up. She slipped them on and instantly her feet began to tap and twirl just like Toby's hat. She gasped and tried to pull the shoes off, but they wouldn't budge. As she struggled, Toby approached her and explained about the shoes and how they made you dance uncontrollably until someone took them off. Rosie understood. She thanked Toby and told him not to worry. She thought she might be able to find someone who could dance even better than she could. She walked into the center of town, where a group of teenagers were hanging out. Hey, guys, want to see something funny? She asked with a grin. She wiggled her toes, and before anyone could respond, bam, the music started and Rosie was dancing. The teens stared in amazement as she spun and leapt and shimmied. After a while, one of the boys, Mark, stepped forward. He was tall and handsome with tousled brown hair and sparkling blue eyes. Toby had often envied Mark's popularity, but now he was jealous. Why did Mark get to dance with Rosie? Mark reached out and took Rosie's hand. May I cut in? He asked, offering her a charming smile. Rosie laughed and stepped back, allowing Mark to lead her in a series of twirls and dips. They danced together for a while until Mark, too, started to get tired. He sat down on a nearby stoop and took off his jacket. That's when Mary Margaret approached them. She was the oldest of the O'Leary triplets and known for her talent in Irish step dancing. Mary Margaret had always wanted to be a dancer, but her family obligations had forced her to stay in town and run the family bakery. She sighed as she watched Mark and Rosie dance. It looked like so much fun. What's going on here? She asked, noticing the shoes on Rosie's feet. Rosie explained about the shoes, and Mary Margaret's eyes lit up. Do you mean I could dance in these? She asked excitedly. Before anyone could respond, she slipped the shoes onto her feet, and bam, she was dancing jumping and kicking her legs in the air, spinning around and around until she was a blur of motion. Everyone watched in awe as she danced, her feet pounding the pavement in perfect rhythm. She moved like a whirlwind, her dress swirling around her like a giant red rose. After a while, Mary Margaret slowed down. She took a deep breath and smiled. "Those are some pretty powerful shoes," she said. "I wonder who could dance even better than me." Suddenly, an idea struck her. She turned to the others and said, "Why don't we ask Old Man Finnegan? He used to be a famous dancer, didn't he?" Everyone agreed, and they all marched over to Old Man Finnegan's house. He was sitting in his rocking chair by the window, feeding birds outside. When he saw Mary Margaret and the others approaching, he stopped feeding the birds and watched curiously. "Mr. Finnegan," Mary Margaret called out, "can you come with us? We need your help." She explained about the shoes and the dancing, and Old Man Finnegan's eyes twinkled. "Well, now, this sounds like fun," he said, standing up and dusting himself off. He joined the group and they all danced down to the riverbank. There, under the shade of a willow tree, they sat down on a blanket. "All right, shoes, do your worst," Old Man Finnegan said with a mischievous grin as he slipped them on. And bam! He was dancing, leaping and twirling, spinning and dipping, gliding and jumping, his feet flying like a hummingbird's wings. Everyone watched in amazement as he danced, his white beard flowing behind him like a banner. He danced and danced until finally he collapsed on the blanket, exhausted but happy. "I haven't had so much fun in years," he said with a chuckle. "But now it's time for me to pass the shoes on to someone else." He looked around and his eyes fell on Toby. "You, my boy, it's your turn." Toby felt a surge of excitement mixed with a little bit of fear. He had never danced in front of so many people before, but he took a deep breath and slipped the shoes onto his feet, and bam! He was dancing, doing all the steps he had learned from Rosie, Mark, and Mary Margaret. He twirled and leaped and kicked up his heels, tapping his toes and clapping his hands. He danced and danced until finally, just like Old Man Finnegan, he collapsed on the blanket, exhausted but happy. As the sun began to set, everyone stood up and applauded. Toby took a bow. "Thank you, everyone," he said, blushing. "I couldn't have done it without you." The townspeople cheered. It had been so long since they had all gathered together and had so much fun. Old Man Finnegan smiled. "It's a good thing we had this dance party," he said, "or I might have forgotten how to dance." He winked at Toby. "And maybe you learned a thing or two about dancing, boy?" Toby laughed and nodded. He couldn't believe how much fun he had had, and he couldn't wait to tell his story to all his friends. From that day on, whenever Toby felt like the world was getting a little too serious, he would put on the shoes and dance. And whenever he needed to cheer up, he would visit Old Man Finnegan, Rosie, Mark, and Mary Margaret, who were now all his best friends. They would all dance together, their laughter echoing through the town, reminding everyone that even in the toughest of times, a little bit of dancing could make everything feel better.